Hey y'all, good morning. So can you believe, I really can't believe I got up and made it to a 6 a.m. yoga class. Yes, I did. I actually really enjoyed it. I just have no idea how long I'm going to last today, so we'll find out. But I hope that your day is off to a good start. If it's late in the day when you're watching it, I hope it was a good day. And you know what? If not, there's always tomorrow, right? So I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you enjoyed today's message. It was one where I didn't sit down with my notebook with any kind of ideas to begin with. I just went within, so to speak, and asked the divine for some guidance, to put something on my heart, and I feel very sure that he did. And so I'm going to share that with you all today. You know, when you think about what motivates a person, and how it's sometimes unconscious belief structures, or you may call them paradigms, that we act from, and largely unknowingly, you know, somewhat consciously, but I feel like a lot of it is it's just these paradigms that we're so deeply rooted in that we're unaware of how much they affect our view of life, our subjective reality, you may say. And so we've been talking a little bit lately about just, you know, trying to become more and more conscious. And so I'm going to share with you some food for thought today that will play into that topic. And so if you think about it, you know, I always like to say, make the reference to marinating when, you know, there's possibly a deeper message or layers of meaning, or of revelation that can come from a topic of interest. You know, I like to say, well, I'm going to marinate on that or marinate in that, you know. And so just to have some fun with that, I want to make a point. I want us to consider food. And so, for example, my mother loves burnt toast. She loves the flavor of and the texture when it's crispy and it has that dark burnt flavor to it. And then of course my daughter prefers just melted butter on the toast. It's kind of like she likes to have a little bit of toast with her butter. So, and then I'm kind of in between. And so the point is how much effort you put into, how much time you put into cooking a food, right, is going to totally change what is taken away, the flavor, right, the end result. And it's the same way when we spend time on concepts, when we're trying to learn. So when I talk about marinating, that's what that means, right? The flavor, the end result is going to be very, very different. Which, by the way, have y'all ever had toasted almonds? Man, they're good. There's an old recipe. I'll see if I can find it in one of my old cookbooks. It was a Rachel Ray cookbook. I don't know if you guys remember her. She was popular for a while. She may still be. I don't know. I don't really watch TV much anymore, but I have several of her cookbooks. And there was one chicken recipe that's just really unique. And it's making a marinade and a sauce from scratch for that recipe, and then you top it off with toasted almonds. And so it's just, again, that's just something that they're sliced and toasted, and the flavor is just incredible. So yeah, same thing. You know, when you think about toasting, you know, toasting marshmallows, my daughter just pulls them out of the bag. She's great with it. And I'm like, you don't know what you're missing. You know, you gotta make s'mores. You gotta take it a step further. So it's all about just being patient, being willing to put in the time to toast your ideas, and to ultimately bring the flavor, the full flavor out of the message, and use that to formulate our paradigms consciously, our belief structures consciously. Does that make sense? And so let me share with you a book. So I have not read this. I have no idea if this is a good book, a bad book, somewhere in between. I don't know. But I just, it was $2 and change on sale, y'all. I had to get it. But it's called No Reason to Hide, right? Standing for Christ in a Collapsing Culture. So we'll see. I don't even know when I'm going to get around to reading it. But I was flipping through, like I like to do, looking for inspiration. And on page 187, there's a little a quote here, or a sentence really, that's highlighted, and it says, "Hard truths must be carried in soft hearts." And I thought, I'm going to sit with that. I'm going to sit with that. I'm going to marinate on that and see what comes of it, right? What comes up from that. And something came up from it. So I'm gonna use that for the inspiration for today's message. All right, so here's the thing. Just like you can check yourself in math by doing the inverse, I want us to look at that statement in the same manner, right? Just really examining it up close, seeing what we can pull from it, determining, is that a fact through our lens? So, it's like, is this true? Is it true? Hard truths must be carried in soft hearts, okay? So what would that mean if you flip it? It would mean that hard hearts would carry what? Soft truths. What does that mean? Well, you might say that it means half-truths, subjective truths, or just flat-out lies, right? That look like truth, or that are presented as truth. So if we recall the dance of light and dark that we mentioned in a previous video, the only way that that the dance of light and dark should be considered a beautiful thing is if you're looking at like a bonfire, right? Just a beautiful dance of the fire against the dark. That's a beautiful display of a literal dance between light and dark, okay? In reality, we find ourselves unhappy, unsettled, and essentially living in resistance. Even the slightest resistance, right? To the whole truth, or well, when the whole truth is not present, rather, okay? And in other words, we need the whole truth, and we need nothing but the truth to not live in resistance, right? To be truly settled and content and happy. That's what we need, okay? So we get to a point when we're really ready to truly get rooted in peace, okay? And when we get to that point where we just really want it, okay, it's like, I'm reminded of what my dad told me growing up. You got to know what you want and how bad you want it. It's important, because a lot of times it takes that to really get motivated, to get up and moving and in pursuit of what it is that you desire, right? How bad do you really want it? So when we really decide we really want peace, we don't want to live in even the slightest resistance. In other words, tolerating things we shouldn't be tolerating. Our gut screaming at us that this is not the whole truth, or it's a half truth that we're being presented with, or that we're living in some type of relationship or engagement with a toxic person. It's like we're pacifying the mask that we are engaging with. We're accepting it, we're tolerating it, and so we have to get to that point where we acknowledge how we feel on the inside. We're unsettled, it doesn't feel right, and so we have to desire peace to a great degree, okay? So yes, when we're ready to truly get rooted in peace, it means being strong enough to stomach hard truths, All right? What does it mean? It means digging and unearthing what was there all along. All along it was there. Okay? And understanding the relationship between ignorance and fear. If we fear hard truths, if we fear admitting these things to ourselves, these red flags, right, we'll never find peace. We can distract ourselves with all kinds of things, but we'll know deep down that we are self-sabotaging what could be a beautiful and true life. Okay, so I want us to take a moment and consider strength. Okay, if we associate being strong with hardness, consider the density of a rock. All right, not only is it heavy, but it's too dense for anything to permeate it. Okay, like truth. We fail ourselves when we associate strength with hardness. It's something to sit with. So, you guys remember the game, you know, when you're a kid, rock, paper, scissors? Well, if you recall, paper covers rock, okay? Paper is flexible. Paper is permeable. If love is the greatest thing that remains, as we're told in the Bible, it means that love is the only true thing to withstand hard truths and not be demolished in the process. Okay, because the Bible says that love never fails. It never fails. That's a great example of true strength right there. Okay, so what came to the surface in thinking through all this for me is that the only thing that can be destroyed is what is temporary and what was never real to begin with. If love is present, okay, if something is rooted in love, it's real. Hard truths are only hard because they aren't rooted in love. Think about it. Think about it. So all these things that we consider hard truths, I get why we call them hard truths. I totally understand that. But if you think about why we call them that, why they're hard to stomach, right? Why they make us in turn just instinctively assume this hard stance. It's like it becomes a struggle not to harden our hearts. It's like, why? And I came to realize it's because these things are not rooted in love. That's why they're hard. They're truths, but they're hard because they're not easily digestible, right? We don't want them to permeate our hearts. So that's what creates that resistance, okay? And so it's definitely a challenge. It's definitely a challenge to accept. And let me just give some examples, right? When we're talking about hard truths, when we're having this discussion, what does that mean? It means acknowledging that we were lied to. It means acknowledging that we were intentionally deceived for manipulative purposes, that we were used, right? That someone possibly even got some type of enjoyment from watching us just totally buy their lies, you know, hook, line, and sinker, as they say. Understanding that someone felt powerful by making us feel less than, subpar, inferior, embarrassed, whatever it was, that created this power dynamic where it put this person on top and it put you down here. Those are really what I'm talking about. Some examples, just some examples of what it means when you come into this awareness that there are people who operate that way, who operate in the darkness, right? And so there's this spiritual battle between light and dark in this reality. Those of us who are operating in the light and those who are operating in the dark. And the reason why, when we come to understand what's going on, it is true that they are doing these things, right? We get to that point where we understand that, but it's hard to take that in and absorb that as a truth, because what they're doing, what we are calling truths, hard truths, are essentially going against God's design of living in alignment with truth and love. So that's why, do you see what I'm saying? It's like, even though they are true, they're not part of the truth, which is love and good and God. So that's why it's like, for me, it just, I had to really sit with it. But it was just like, another unveiling, another layer peeled back of understanding, okay, this is why it puts me in this defensive, this hard stance, and I don't want to be that way. I don't want to live my life that way, which is why we're only going to find peace when we don't engage, right? When we get to that point where we're ready to truly make these hard truths irrelevant, because we just don't even spend the time to try and absorb them in our hearts, right? And in our minds. It's like, once we can identify them, that's really all we need to do. And so that's why I always encourage all of us, myself and all of you, as you're learning and growing and researching, to always keep your focus on the good things, right? Think on these things, the good things, what is true and good and lovely, and all the things that are listed in that verse in the Bible, where it explicitly tells us what to think on. There's a reason for that, okay? So, yes, hard truths are only hard because they aren't rooted in love, and our hearts are only meant to absorb and be permeable for things that are rooted in love. That's why we can't take them in. That's why we need to be careful and keep that boundary up when we're learning, that as we take something in as truth, we're not taking it in as actually truth. We're taking it in up here and saying, okay, I see that this is essentially a non-truth. Instead of labeling them as hard truths, maybe just try, utilizing your creativity and coming up with a different term. Maybe they're not truths, right, at all, hard truths. Maybe they're just non-truths. Maybe they're examples of the lie and all the different ways living in lies can manifest. So hopefully that will be more easily digestible for you, and it's my hope that it helps to keep your heart and your mind safeguarded. It's just another layer to add to your shield to protect your peace. Okay, so in the end, think about this. The power of love reveals all. It heals all, and it creates all. So I just encourage you to rest in this. So I hope this has been encouraging for you. I hope that it got the wheels turning. I hope that it was made sense, because I'm still waking up. I've already had my coffee, but I got up super early. So just keep that in mind. So I hope that it was still beneficial for you. And I just thank you so much for coming along to listen to the message. And I hope that you have a beautiful day. I'll see you again very soon.